Graham Barker. Perfect conditions down there. There was a threat of a little rain overnight, but the ground looks to be holding pretty well for this event.
The ground's in excellent condition, Jim, and the riders will have no problems at all keeping the horses on their feet. The grass is nice and thick and lush. There was a bit of rain overnight. They also watered the ground. It really is in perfect nick, and we've got a magnificent track, a beautiful course built by Paul Vyers, a course that will really test the skills of the rider and the jumping ability of the horses, and that's what show jumping is all about. They have some interesting distances where the riders will have to correct stride. We have a lot of related sections of the course, and we'll really be seeing some top show jumping in this event.
What about the difference between competing on this type of course in a Grand Prix event and indoors?
Outdoors, Jim, of course, the riders have so much more room. And this is a very flowing track, and the riders will have a lot of opportunity to make corrections should it be necessary.
So a field of 31 over 2 rounds in the Grand Prix, and then if there are several double clears, of course, we'll have a jump off to decide the winner. Now, Gavin Chester, the current Australian national show jumping champion, will be first up aboard Rossmore, and Gavin Chester has benefited recently from some sponsorship, timely sponsorship, to keep him in the sport.
Gavin was going to give the sport away, Jim, and that would have been a big loss to Australian equestrian sports. We've already lost Greg Urell. Greg is retired and is now training racehorses, of course, a former winner of the Grand Prix of Australia. Gavin also had retired, but was fortunate enough to pick up sponsorship from Tony and Noeline Oates. And that's enabled him to continue in show jumping. And he's a magnificent rider. A former top junior, represented Australia as a junior internationally, represented Australia as a senior in New Zealand, was selected for the Moscow Olympic Games, has represented us in a World Cup final. Current Australian show jumping champions, they won the title in Adelaide as part of the Swan Premium Show Jumping Series.
So a field of 31 in the first of 2 rounds in the Grand Prix of Australia, and Graham Barker will take you through the course with Gavin Chester on Rossmore.
Course of 13 obstacles, reasonably simple couple of first fences over the first 2. The height of the obstacles ranging from 1.4 metres to 1.5 metres, and we have some very big spreads, 1.5 to 1.7 metres. Gavin now approaching the double, 4A and 4B. 2 strides between each of the elements with imitation water under both of the fences. More related fences, 5 across to 6, a vertical and then a spread with 4 strides in between. Nicely through the related section, round the corner, and a fence requiring a great deal of accuracy. It's very, very narrow. Gavin swinging right deep into the corner for a run of 3 fences. A big spread, 4 strides, then 6 strides to obstacle number 10. Beautifully ridden. Gavin started the circuit this year in Western Australia. He didn't compete in Queensland. Now, an upright, an imitation brick wall. Quite a long canter now, round the corner. Gavin will go again deep up into the corner for a treble and the final upright fence. Into the treble. Over the first, 1 stride to the second, then 2. Now, 5 strides to the last fence, or 6, depending on how the riders choose to take the course, and that's a superb round. A great start to the Swan Premium Grand Prix of Australia. No jumping penalties, no time penalties, all clear for Rossmore and Gavin Chester. Coming into the treble, Gavin lining it up beautifully, picking the stride from a long way back. Hardly had to make a correction, just shorten stride just a fraction between B and C, then straight on to this rather high upright. The final fence could be a trap for some competitors if they're not careful. All clear, Rossmore, Gavin Chester.
A visitor from New Zealand, Tony Webb, riding Reservation. And Tony, although he competed in the team's event yesterday, is not an official member of the team, according to his background details that he's supplied to us this morning. He's here as a World Cup contender only.
The Pacific League of the World Cup, Jim, there will be 2 Australians representing the Pacific League and 1 New Zealander. And Tony Webb is the top point scorer in New Zealand, which is a sub-league of the Pacific League.
He won 5 Grand Prix on the New Zealand circuit so far this season. That's since September, including a second in the World Cup qualifier in November. And he's leading by 30 points in their Bay Rental Grand Prix circuit.
Tony, not a young man, he's 50 years of age. Obviously, by his record and performances in New Zealand, particularly this season, he's been doing extremely well. Ooh, kick back a little bit over the top of fence number 5, over the spread. Obstacles in show jumping are either straight obstacles or spread obstacles. The straight obstacle requiring the horse to jump height only. The spread obstacle requiring the horse to jump width as well as height. Nice related section. Tony checking back over the vertical. Oh, he's got a rail down at the spread, obstacle number 10. No, that's 4 faults. All going in a bit sideways into the wall. Disappearing almost behind the pillar. Jumps it safely. Swinging right up against the fence, starting to sight up this treble. A spread to a straight, and then a spread. Checks back, going to put in the 6 strides, jumps the vertical okay. So 4 faults for Tony Webb and reservation. And he'd be pleased, but just a little disappointed with having 1 fenced out. And this is where the rail fell. Fence number 10 takes off, gets the hind legs over the front rail, but not quite high enough to get it over the back rail, and 4 penalties resulting.
Vicky Roycroft aboard Apache, and this chestnut's had a tremendous season, a number of top Grand Prix placings, and Vicky Roycroft from that well-known equestrian family, and she was a member of the 3-day event team at the Los Angeles Olympics. And well, for a start, she needs to go clear in this opening round to have a chance of being a World Cup representative later on this year. So let's see how she goes with Apache, that's gone so well for her this season.
Apache really jumps very high over his fences. Very athletic horse. Has really burst onto the show jumping scene in a blaze of glory. Won 5 major events at the Sydney Royal Easter Show. Went up to Queensland with the circuit. Jumped extremely well. Has won 2 World Cup qualifying events. His last couple of starts has found a little bit of difficulty with some of the big spread fences, and there's some big spread fences in this course. Vicky realises exactly the position she is in with regards to the Pacific League of the World Cup. She's in equal 3rd position at this stage and must really do well in this event to try and improve her position. So there's a lot of pressure on her. Over the spread. Really concentrating hard. All clear over number 10. Both Vicky and Wayne, one of the lucky riders that received sponsorship, sponsored by Randvet Veterinary Supplies here in Randwick in New South Wales. All clear so far. Coming into this treble. This is a real test. The horse required to make 3 efforts in very quick succession. Beautifully through the treble. Vicky sets back, gets the 6 in, jumps the last. Superb round. She's in there with a big chance. Still in with a chance of winning the Grand Prix of Australia, gaining the 20 points and getting the 2nd spot for the World Cup final. So Vicky would be absolutely delighted with that round. Apache doing everything right. Coming through the treble. Picks up the stride superbly. He goes very high over the spread. Lands a little bit short. Vicky asks for a little bit of lengthening of the stride. Gets it. Lands nicely over the second part. 2 strides over the spread. Sets back. checks right back, puts in the 6 strides before the upright, meets the upright in perfect position, goes high over the top of it, and a beautiful round from Apache and Vicky Roycroft. Coming through the section of 8, 9 and 10, again over the big spread, really went very, very high over the top of the fence. Vicky correcting the stride just a little bit into the upright, nicely over the upright.
Now let's go to an interview. Vicky Roycroft with Lou Wallace.
Well, Vicky, you needed a clear run straight up and you've got it. What did you think of the course?
Course rode very, very well. This guy is a wonderful international course designer. I wish we could have him at all of our shows, because he doesn't build to upset the horse or ruin the rider, and he builds to get good jumping and a careful horse, and that suits me just fine.
Thanks, Vicky.
Thank you.
Back on the course. Very relieved, I think, Vicky Roycroft there after that first round to go clear. Great start for her. And Guy Crichton getting ready to approach this course, the board stretch. Another very experienced competitor. He's been an Olympian, 1976 and 1984. He was a team captain yesterday when Australia wrapped up that Pacific Teams Cup competition.
A man with tremendous experience, has ridden overseas, has represented Australia here in Australia, has won 3 Australian show jumping championships in his career. He's also won this event. Guy with a magnificent temperament, never seems to be worried by pressure. Stretch, originally ridden by Chris Chugg, has now been ridden by Guy Crichton for the last 2 seasons, is owned in Western Australia by Elizabeth Connell, a horse that has shown tremendous potential and is a horse that everybody expects some really big things from. Guy at the moment in 2nd placing in the World Cup qualifying events with 105 points. Really needs to do well in this event to ensure a place in the World Cup team. This fellow really has a magnificent eye, and that's the secret in show jumping. The rider's ability to judge the horse's stride on the approach to the obstacle, and their ability to regulate the stride so they take off at the correct point in front of the fence. This is an interesting fence. It's very, very narrow and requires a great deal of accuracy and a lot of control. And unfortunately, Guy has it down. So that's 4 faults. See him working with his left hand, pulling on the rein, shortening Stretch's stride, coming through up to fence number 10. Now the wall. Again, reasonably narrow, quite high, almost up to the maximum. The maximum allowed in an event like this is 1.6 metres, and these fences are between 1.4 and 1.5. The treble, no problems at all. Nicely through the treble. Guy picking up the stride as soon as he landed. 1 fence down only for Stretch and Guy Crichton for jumping penalties. So that's very interesting. 2 horses have gone clear and 2 horses with 4 faults so far in the first round of the Swan Premium Grand Prix of Australia.
It's Chris Condon out on the course. He's 19. He's studying up at the University of Queensland. Not only keen on show jumping, developing his experience in the sport, but he's also played representative rugby league for the university against New Zealand last year. He's also had some very good performances during the year with Valencia, 3rd in the Queensland Derby, 1st in an invitation in Brisbane, 2nd in a futurity at Wentworth Park last year, and 1st in the Swan Indoor in Brisbane.
Chris Condon showed a lot of potential as a junior. Doesn't ride as much now as he used to because of his university studies, and has a rail down very early in the course, and that sometimes can be a bit confidence destroying. Through the double. course, very free-flowing, although there are some distances that require adjustment of the horse's stride. And that's down also, so that's 2 fences down for Valencia so far in this round. Picked up the line through 8, 9 and 10 very nicely. Taps the brick wall, but not enough to displace a brick. Turns onto the treble. We're starting to run out to the side, had to do a correction coming through that treble. Through the last fence. Chris very pleased with that round from Valencia, giving Valencia a pat. And that's congratulations to the horse for a job really, really well done. 2 fences down only for 8 faults. Now, watch as he came through the treble. Valencia starting to run to the left-hand side of the obstacle. Chris having to make a quick correction to straighten up to get over 12C. So, 8 faults for Valencia, Chris Condon.
This is David Azimus aboard Golden Grand. He represented Australia in the 1983 World Cup final in Vienna on this horse, which placed second in the 1984 Bonn Derby. So a deal of experience out there again. Beautifully presented, Golden Grand, and he's chasing hopefully the 3rd clear in this opening round of the Grand Prix of Australia.
Golden Grand finished 12th in the World Cup final in Vienna. Magnificent performance. He's been to New Zealand twice, 1979 and 1985. Was superb in New Zealand with 7 Grand Prix starts for 5 wins, a 2nd and a 3rd. But he's got 2 fences down. David late to join the circuit this year, picked it up in Victoria. Turns the corner. Quite a long gallop across to fence number 11, then there's a reasonable amount of space, then round onto the treble. Over the wall, okay. 2 fences down at this stage. So have to line up the treble. Plenty of room from the wall to the first part of the treble. No problems at all for the riders. Final fence, David checked back a bit, got that okay. So 2 fences down. 8 faults for David Azimus and Golden Grand. Eight jumping penalties as David and Golden Grand leave the arena.
Now out on the course, David Robertson. That's Dusky Dawn. I've seen Dusky Dawn several times here at Wentworth Park. But David, not a lot of top grade wins to his credit.
David went to New Zealand with the Australian team in 1985 with Dusky Dawn. Unfortunately, the horse was injured very early in the tour and he didn't get too many starts. Of course, David was the man responsible for the starting of Gold Ray, a magnificent horse that won this event twice with Marianne Gilchrist in the saddle. Nicely through the double, enough room for 2 strides of the horse. The related fences, the doubles and the trebles, they're the fences that really take some jumping. The horse required to make efforts in very quick succession. Very narrow little fence, they can jump either of the red and white rails. Another fence down, that's a total of 8 so far for Dusky Dawn. Oh, that pole bounced right up in the air. Not so lucky this time. He's got a total of 12, and he's pulled off. He was missing the stride, and he realised he was wrong. It was better to stop and incur the 3 faults for a refusal than try and jump it from the wrong position and risk having the fence down and a possible fall. So he's now up to 15 jumping penalties. Into the treble, all clear through the treble. Final fence coming up, over the last, and he is under the time allowed of 1 minute 49, so no time penalties. 15 jumping penalties for Dusky Dawn, David Robertson. Well, here's where David got into trouble. All clear over fence 8, a rail down at 9, and then he's coming in wrong stride, pulls off and incurs another 3 penalties for the refusal. So a confirmed score of 11 faults for Dusky Dawn, David Robertson.
Di Dawson from Young in New South Wales. She was a member of the Australian World Cup, the World Championship team in 1982. She's had a number of good horses, including Hunky Dory. Finished 4th in the Victorian Championships aboard this horse, 2nd in a Grand Prix at Castle Hill, also on Hunky Dory.
Hunky Dory, very athletic, almost like riding a spring, I would think. He's sitting on his back like a rubber band. He winds himself up and then lets it all go. Di Dawson has represented Australia many times, internationally, overseas. Hunky Dory would be a reasonably difficult horse to ride. Over the narrow fence, round the corner now to this line of fences, 8, 9 and 10. Sets it up nicely. Seeing the stride, making just slight alterations. Because of her great talent and ability, can see the stride from a long way back and therefore doesn't have to make a quick or sudden correction virtually just in front of the fence. There was a look back over the shoulder. Oh, Hunky Dory resisting a bit, coming round the corner, the head turning to the outside of the arena. It should be following the curve. Now into the treble. A, B, C all clear this round, looking pretty good. Comes into the last, she's got it, great round. Di Dawson. Hunky Dory, Di Dawson, jumping clear, and she is very, very happy. A very happy Di Dawson. She gives Hunky Dory a great big pat. And she would be absolutely delighted with the efforts of the horse. All clear. Di Dawson on the section of 8, 9 and 10 meets it beautifully. Lands safely, strides on. Di making a correction, Hunky Dory just lifting the head a fraction, little bit of resistance, lands nicely over 9, picks up the stride, takes off and lands perfectly over fence number 10. All clear for Di Dawson, Hunky Dory.
And now one of the very talented visitors here for the Swan Premium Sydney Show Jumping Championships, Leslie Burr-Lenihan from the United States. She's the current World Cup title holder. She won at Gothenburg in Sweden last year with a horse called McLean. and she won the prestigious event by an unprecedented margin of 13 points. Here she's riding Golf Country, and a chance for everyone here at Wentworth Park and for you watching at home on television to gain an appreciation of the skill of this very fine rider from the United States.
Paul Vire was the course designer at the World Cup final in Gothenburg. Golf Country, very kindly loaned to us by Colin Marr from Coomera in Queensland. He was the manager of the equestrian team at the Los Angeles Olympic Games. Golf Country normally ridden by Guy Crichton. Leslie has really proven since she's been here that she is a top rider. Jumped in many of the competitions and has been very, very successful. Sits nicely on the horse, doesn't worry the horse too much. Has a rail down at fence number 5. Of course, these international and visiting riders didn't even realise these horses existed until they arrived in Australia and here at Wentworth Park. So they've had a very short time only to get used to the horses' styles. A couple of competitions in the earlier days, another fence down. And show jumping, very much a team sport. Horse and rider combining as a team. And it usually takes a while for one another to get to know the styles. There's a time allowed on the course of 1 minute 49. If there wasn't a time allowed, the riders would have as much time as they like to jump the course. We'd hardly ever see a penalty. And superbly through that treble, saw the line, the stride from a long way back, beautifully over the last. That's a superb round from Leslie Burr-Lenehan. 2 fences down, 8 penalties only, and really showing what a class rider she is. Coming through the line, over fence number 8. There's one of the 8 faults. Didn't get over the back rail, pulled it down, was unable to get the width. Nicely over the vertical. Coming a little bit sideways, straightens up, jumps fence number 10. Coming through the treble, again, picking up the line perfectly. Golf Country lifting high over the first, dipped a little bit, straight into the vertical, 2 strides, over the spread, taking the 6 strides up to fence number 13, shorten the stride back nicely, lands safely, and a nice run through the final section of the course. 8 jumping penalties only for Golf Country and Leslie Burr-Lenehan. The current World Cup title holder, a really top competitor and a really great coup for the Australian equestrian sports promoters who have been able to bring both the World Cup title holder and the world champion for Wentworth Park.
A little disappointed having 2 rails down?
Well, of course, you always hope to go clean, but considering it's a strange horse and not knowing him very well, I was very happy. I thought he went nicely, and so I can't be too disappointed.
How many times have you ridden Golf Country before now?
Well, I've competed with him, I guess, 3 days in this competition, and then we had a warm-up day, so this was the 5th time I've been on his back.
Thanks to Leslie Burr-Lenehan, talking with Lou Wallace down there. And we're back on course with yet another overseas competitor from New Zealand, Claire Honeywell, a member of the New Zealand team that competed, finishing 2nd behind Australia in the Pacific Teams Cup yesterday. And she's riding Buckingham. She won the Pony of the Year title in 1982, Junior Rider of the Year in 1985, and she was here as a member of New Zealand's junior team in 1984, and she hails from that rather chilly spot in the south of New Zealand, almost Antarctic down there, Invercargill.
Claire, a very young rider. Didn't have the best of luck yesterday. Had a very off day. And hasn't started off too well here either with the first fence down for 4 faults. Claire has taken part in a fair amount of the Swan Premium show jumping series. She's competed in all 3 of the Pacific International Teams Cup events. Was very lucky coming through that double. Belted the rails on both of the elements. A little bit of resistance coming round the corner. Over 8, 9's okay. Head to the side a little bit. Wraps the back rail at the last. So 1 fence down so far for Claire. Over fence 11. Again, resistance. The horse ahead going out to the outside of the circle. It should be on the inside of the circle as they turn. Coming through the treble. A, B and C all clear. This is a good round from Buckingham and Claire Honeywell. Only the 1 rail down. She's very pleased. May have taken that first fence a little bit too casually and has the first fence down for 4 jumping penalties.
Delighted about it all. Broad sweep of the course for Lisa Stevens, 23 years of age, riding Brady. And last year she had 6 amateur owner wins during the West Australian circuit, and she was 4th in the B Championships at Dapto a week ago.
Almost sure I'm right in saying that this is the first really big Grand Prix that Brady and Lisa Stevens have competed in. But Brady has been going so well over the last 2 or 3 weeks. They've decided to have a run in the Grand Prix of Australia. Lisa someday has to start in a big Grand Prix. Really had a very successful season in the amateur owner competitions. Brady very compact. Been a good little horse for Lisa. Has a bit of a habit at the end of the round sometimes of putting in a bit of a pig route as he goes off the arena. Ooh, wrapped the narrow fence. This line of 3. Over 8, 9. These are doing it nicely. Should be very pleased so far. Very big course, probably the biggest course that Lisa's jumped. All clear, over 11. Brady just about to put in a pig route. Now this very big testing and demanding treble. Brady, ears pricked. Lisa picks it up nicely. B's right. C's right. Superb round so far from Lisa Stevens and Brady. She comes into the last. She's got it. That's a great round. She will be absolutely delighted with that round. That is superb. And look, she is just so happy. A little bit exhausted. Gives Brady a pat. And that's a great round for Brady and Lisa Stevens. Now let's have a look at the treble. She really did it superbly. Brady lifting high over the first 2 elements. Sees the stride, rides on. All clear over C, picking up the stride again, ears pricked, alert, attentive, jumps the last one. Superb round, Lisa Stevens and Brady, all clear.
So 4 clears to date in the opening round of the Grand Prix of Australia, and remember it's over 2 rounds and there'll be a jump off if there are double clears. Now out on the course from Morelia in New South Wales, not far from Sydney. Felix, ridden by Kirk Roberts.
This will be Kirk's second season of really top show jumping. Felix, originally a Queensland horse. Kirk has had him only this season. Started the circuit in Queensland in July 1986. Went across to Western Australia, back through South Australia, Victoria, and finishing here in New South Wales. This would be Kirk's second string horse. He normally rides Beau Bryan as his World Cup mount. Been a very long season for all of these horses, some of them a bit tired and requiring a little bit of a break and a let up. And he's got 2 fences down, and Felix resisting, coming round the corner. Kirk, with his tie flapping in the breeze, has another one down. All got in a bit close. Bashes fence number 9. Around the corner for the second round of this competition. Between 40 and 60% of the competitors in the first round will be invited into the second round. He's run off. See that coming. The horse starting to head to the left from very early on. So that's 3 for the refusal, but Kirk taking his cap off, possibly realising that it was just a little bit on Felix. A reasonably inexperienced horse. So retirement for Kirk Roberts and Felix. So he came in, takes off over the first part, the horse already heading for the left. Kirk tried to straighten him up, couldn't, realised the horse would have lost a bit of confidence from that and decided to retire.
Crosby with Harvey Wilson. This horse is the biggest money winner on New Zealand's Grand Prix circuit last year. And Wilson has extensive international experience competing in Australia in 1973. And then he was chosen as New Zealand's reserve rider for the Montreal Olympics. He was the team captain yesterday in New Zealand's effort and finishing second in the Pacific Cup teams competition. Harvey Wilson.
Harvey, no stranger to Australia. He came over in 1973 and won the Victorian Show Jumping Championship. He was very lucky, or unlucky, not to win it again this year in the Australian Invitational, which was also the Victorian Show Jumping Championships. Last to go, had it all set up and then had the final fence down in the jump off. Harvey Wilson, with a lot of experience, was overseas in Great Britain in 1975, went back in 77, stayed there until 79, and competed with a lot of success, was reserve rider for the New Zealand show jumping team in 1976. Coming in sideways, picks up the line for number 10. 1 fence down. Over the wall. Oh, he's in trouble again, coming through this treble. 2 more down, 12 faults. Into the last 12 faults for Crosby and Harvey Wilson, and Harvey will be disappointed. Very disappointed. Crosby normally gives us a much better round than that, but that's the lack of show jumping. Round the corner, Harvey picking up the stride, pulled the back rail and the front rail down. He's then unbalanced and in trouble, rode on nicely to pick up 12C clear. Then shorten stride, bit sideways, putting in the 6 strides before the final fence, and he finishes with a total of 12 jumping penalties.
So as we watch Janelle Waters come out on Blue Jinx, how do you rate this course so far, Graham?
Excellent, Jim. If we have a look at what's happened so far, we've got 4 horses that have gone clear. We've got 3 horses on 4 faults and 3 horses on 8. So more than half of the competitors have got round with less than 8 penalties. That's excellent course designing. Paul will be trying to get somewhere around about 8 to 10 clear in the first round and try to get about 5 with double clears, I would think, would be his aim. And at this stage, he certainly looked like getting his 8 to 10 clear in the first round. We've got 4 already. We've got top horses still to come. Janelle not getting the hind legs high enough over fence number 3. Getting well out to the right-hand side of 4A and B. Having to work hard. Blue Jinx trying to take charge. Another one down. 8 faults in this round. And another 12 faults. Looks over the shoulder, but the brick is still in place. So he'll have to set this up right the way Blue Jinx is going. Comes into the treble. So she's got a pretty right low. There's another rail down. Blue Jinx certainly can go a lot better than that. That's 4 rails down. That'll be 16 jumping penalties for Janelle Waters and Blue Jinx. So she'll be very lucky if she gets into the second round of this competition.
And good afternoon to John Fay, another one of the Tony Barlow team. It's Tony Barlow Focus. Earlier today, he won the top score on Tony Barlow Bits and Pieces.
Did it in fine form too. He blitzed the field. He really is a top rider, this man. He's been at the top of Australian show jumping for a long, long time. Show jumping started in Australia back in 1954. And since then, John Fay has been one of the top competitors.
Olympic Games, what, 64, 68?
64 and 68, jumped off for the bronze medal in 1964 and finished 4th. No other Australian has done that well in the Olympic Games. Not only is he an excellent show jumping rider, he was the world champion in camp drafting, and he's been champion gentleman rider on the flat at the Sydney Royal Easter Show 7 times. Has an unusual style, about 2 strides in front of the fence. You'll see he gives just a little tug. Has a magnificent eye, very skillful. John Fay has a string of horses with the Tony Barlow prefix. John picked up the sponsorship in 1981, and the sponsorship has enabled him to travel Australia with a large team of horses, and he competes with a lot of success. A little tug. A style all his own. He's jumped overseas internationally for Australia. And I'm sure many people will remember the great little horse that John had, Bonvale. All clear so far. John Fay really, really concentrating. He won the first round of the World Cup qualifying events in Queensland. Oh, he's got a rail down. All clear through the treble. Just didn't lift high enough, I think, at the first part of the treble, so he'll be a little bit disappointed, but that's a good effort from Tony Barlow Focus and John Fay to only incur 4 faults in the first round of the Swan Premium Grand Prix of Australia. Okay, round the corner, measuring up the stride okay. Wool might have got in just a fraction close, and unfortunately punches the front rail out of the parallel bar and incurs 4 jumping penalties.
Out on the course, Robbie Allen from Victoria. He really gave a tremendous run yesterday in the Speed Stakes, and then came to grief, I think, about the second last fence. But the most impressive performance is he haired around the course. Bit of a character, this fella, isn't he?
Oh,
comes from
he
your
ever?
home state, Graham?
Yes, he does, the Victorian. He's a very, very determined man. And Robbie Allen never, ever gives up. He is never beaten until the final result is known. And a really top rider, particularly this season and last season in Adelaide and Victoria. He's had a magnificent run. Top rider at the Adelaide Royal, leading horses, and particularly Sandstorm have won some major events in Victoria. Second or third in the Victorian Show Jumping Championships in 1986, and he's got a rail down at number 5. Sandstorm, owned by Max and Helen Annette from New Gisborne in Victoria. Robbie has represented Australia back in 1977 at the French Festival. It was held in Melbourne. And another rail down. Oh, and another. Allowing Sandstorm to run on a bit too strongly. And another brig off the wall. So that's 4 fences down. So this is not up to the usual standard of Sandstorm and Robbie Allen. Into the treble. Meets that nicely. Safely through the treble. Final fence. Over the last. Sandstorm, Robbie Allen. Over 8. And drags 9 down with the hind legs. Robbie trying to pick up the line and stride. Takes off. And another rail down. Now into the brick wall. And it's down also. And he finishes with 16 jumping penalties. Sandstorm, Robbie Allen.
Just getting the course back in order. We've had a number of clears, about halfway mark at this stage in the first round. So there are 4 clears so far.
Well, the crowd really enjoying the show jumping.
Good holiday crowd here. Got a few other distractions and attractions around, but let's look at the list so far of clears in this opening round. Gavin Chester, then Vicky Roycroft, terrific round, and Apache. Di Dawson with Hunky Dory, and Lisa Stevens with Brady. So, well, girls in front at the moment.
If there is to be a surprise there, it would be Brady with a clear round. The other 3 top competitors and not unexpected.
Kite. Equestrian Bloodstock Agency Kite now with George Sanna, and this horse won the A-grade event here on Saturday. And George Sanna, tremendous experience on board Kite, Schnapps, King Omega. Has been a leading rider at the Sydney Royal. High placings in national championships.
This is the horse, Jim, that George actually rode in the Olympic Games in 1984. This guy has a magnificent style. And if there's any young budding show jumping riders in our audience, this is the style that you should model your style on. Sits beautifully in the saddle, has a nice pair of hands, uses his legs well, a really top rider, and of course, like all of them, has a brilliant eye for a horse's stride, can judge it from a long way back. He's represented Australia in a World Cup final and the Olympic Games. Former Western Australian show jumping champions on the title in 1983. All clear so far. George Santa lining up the treble. A, B, C, all clear. He's doing this well. This could be another clear. Looking almost certain. He's got it. So there's our 5th clear round. Equestrian Bloodstock Agency kite, George Santa. Superb round.
The 5th clear in this opening round for EBA Kite and George Santa. Ken Graham yesterday had his first ride in an Australian team. He and Chris Chugg having the chance to compete there. And he's won the Australian Show Jumping Championship and the West Australian State Championship on this horse in 1984, and he's had a tremendous season over the last 8 months, a number of wins, and Ken and his wife have a training centre out at Dural, just west of Sydney. So Ken Graham on the course, chasing clear round number 6 as one of the fences. It's just being repaired. One of the poles is being checked. I've just lobbed off. And Ken Graham waiting for the bell to signify the start of his round.
Well, this has undoubtedly been Ken Graham's best season. Won the Bond Australian Show Jumping Derby in West Australia, the richest show jumping event in Australia at the present time. He won the Quit Campaign event also in Western Australia and has had a superb season. Perfect day for show jumping. It's not too hot. There's a slight breeze blowing, keeping the temperatures down a little bit, making it pleasant for the horses, making it pleasant for the riders, and conditions absolutely ideal. Here's the horses with 4 faults in the first round. Reservation and Tony Webb, Stretch and Guy Crichton, Buckingham and Claire Honeywell, 2 New Zealanders with 4 faults, and Tony Barlow Focus and John Fay.
The only man on the island at the moment, or man and horse. Just checking to see about one of the fences. Apparently there might have been a late pole with Sandstorm. Sandstorm scored 16 jumping penalties, so not going to make a lot of difference to Robbie Allen and Sandstorm, but to Ken Graham patiently waiting for that indication from the judges to start this round.
Actually, this could be a little bit of bad luck for Ken, because he was all nicely warmed up, he was all psyched up, everything was ready to go, and now he's had a bit of a break in his concentration. He also would be wondering what the delay was for, because he could look around the arena and see there was nothing happening to the course.
What sort of immediate preliminary does the horse and rider have before the first round here?
Outside Jim in the practice area, they can sort of come in. They would allow no more than 5 horses in the practice area at any one time, and there are 2 obstacles out there which they can jump. They warm the horses up, jump them backwards and forwards over the fences until they're sure that the horse is right, and they literally only come out onto the arena just seconds before it is their turn to compete. It's timed almost to the split second. He was very lucky over the first. He really hit the rail quite hard. Kenny Graham. I was speaking with him yesterday, was absolutely delighted to gain his first Australian flag, and so he should be. It's a real honour to ride and represent your country. And he's certainly earned his place in the Australian team. Happy Jack, only a reasonably small horse. Over the big straight. The upright. Kenny really concentrating. Look, he's lost the stirrupine. His foot is out of the stirrupine, fighting to get it back. That bounced out somewhere around about over fence 7. He's come through those 3 obstacles without the foot in the iron. That would affect his balance quite considerably. Over fence number 11. The treble and the final fence. Happy Jack resisting a little bit into the treble. He's right. B's clear. C's right. This looking good. Ken's got a check back, puts in the 6, gets it. Great round, Ken Graham and Happy Jack. So we now have 6 horses clear in the first round. So Ken Graham losing the stirrup iron, and that would be to his disadvantage. Comes over fence number 8, the stirrup iron flapping in the breeze. That would be annoying the horse as well. It'd be bashing him on the shoulder. Ken really having to grip with the knees now to stay on board as that stirrup iron and leather flap about. But he's got to forget about it. He has to concentrate on jumping these fences, and that's a superb bit of riding from Ken Graham. And obviously it didn't worry Happy Jack because he's completed the round without penalty.
Leon Ryan and Mr. Shrimpton. Now, of course, in the past, Greg Urell has ridden Mr. Shrimpton, but he's retired.
Well, the eyes and ears of the world have been on Leon Ryan over the last 4 or 5 weeks. Of course, Mr. Shrimpton, a really top show jumper. Won the Bond Australian Show Jumping Derby, won a lot of major events for Greg Urell. When Greg retired, he's owned by Gordon Jones, who lives very close to Leon's hometown of Ardlethan, and Leon was offered the ride. Very accomplished young rider, and early in 1986 went to Ireland and competed and trained in Ireland for a short period of time. And so when he first appeared on Mr. Shrimpton, a lot of people were very curious as to how he would go. He's fared extremely well indeed. Was placed highly in Shepparton, his first ride in Victoria, and has then done very well with Mr. Shrimpton ever since. The horse takes off around about 1.8 metres or 6 feet in front of the fence, and they land the same distance over the fence. So it's not unusual for a horse to be airborne for a distance of about 24 feet or 8 metres. And a rail down for Mr. Shrimpton. It'll be a bit disappointing for Leon. He'd dearly love to have gone clear and have a chance of winning the Grand Prix of Australia. Not that his chances are gone, but they're certainly diminished. Oh, refusal. He completely missed the stride. Now he relines up the wall. Comes in again. A little bit of resistance from Mr. Shrimpton. That could have been rider error. Leon may have made the mistake. May have tried to place the horse incorrectly, and the horse refused. Into the treble. So 7 penalties now. All clear through the treble and safely over the last. And 1 minute 49.9. He is over the time allowed, so he's also incurred a quarter of a time penalty for a total of 7 1/4. Now, coming round the corner, this is where he had the refusal. Lines it up. He's really trying to correct the stride. And that was where he actually jumped it clear. So that, of course, was his second attempt after he incurred the 3 faults for the refusal. 7 1/4 faults for Mr. Shrimpton, Leon Ryan.
Chris Chugg leading in the World Cup point standings in the Pacific League, 112 points, 7 ahead of Guy Crichton, and one of the Denby Park Syndicate's horses, Sky High. And Chris Chugg here, like Ken Graham, had a great thrill yesterday in representing Australia for the first time.
Well, this is a pressure round for Chris Chugg. We're really going to find out what this guy's temperament is like now. He realises he only has to do well in this event to be almost certain to represent Australia in the World Cup final. Denby Park Sky High, magnificent big stallion, the Hanoverian, one of the German warm blood horses, has performed magnificently all season. And Chris Chugg this season picking up a very important sponsorship for him from the Denby Park establishment at Galston. He's got a rail down. That's interesting. Now, that may have been pressure. He's got to forget about that now and try and get round the rest of the course. Oh, 2 rails down, 8 faults. It might be getting to him. Now, the one that can really push him from the berth, or the #1 spot in the World Cup team, is Vicky Roycroft. She's already clear. No, round now for the treble. He can't afford any more. Clear, although he wrapped A quite hard. Over B and C. Into the last fence. Over the last. He'll be very relieved but disappointed to incur 8 penalties with Denby Park Sky High. Chris Chugg, current leader in the Pacific League of the World Cup qualifying competitions. And Denby Park Sky High coughing a lot. Maybe feeling a little off colour. Maybe a bit of a cold. Chris just dismounting. Let's have a look at where he incurred the penalties. Fence number 5, the upright. Just not lifting high enough. Jumped the next fence nicely. Chris rearranging the reins. Round the corner. This is the narrow fence requiring a lot of accuracy. Comes in okay, and he hit that fairly high up on the horse's body, and that's where he got the 8 faults.
Chris, a vital day for you. Were you worried with the 2 fences down?
Yes, I was. I think the horse stepped into the arena and was a little bit stirred up with the day. Like the indoors when I was speaking to you before, he can do that, and I feel that he did it to me today. And all that was on my mind to settle him down and finish my track without getting any more than 8 faults.
Who's going to be the rider for you to beat?
Well, Guy's got 1 down. I've got 2 down. For me to be beaten in the World Cup at the moment, I have to finish less than 7th in the event, and Guy has to win the class. Now, I think Guy's got 1 down, so he possibly is out of contention to win it. And the only other rider possibly is Vicky Roycroft. If she wins the class, she can beat me, and I think then I'm second. So Vicky Roycroft and Apache is the one to beat.
Interesting comments there from Chris Chugg, concerned about his horse not being quite settled for the event. You were making some comments as he went around the course.
I think probably a lot of it was Chris's own nervousness transmitting down to the horse. He would have been really, really tense. It's just such an important event for him.
John Ledger now on the course, aboard Nobby.
Very interesting combination. Nobby and John Ledger compete with a lot of success on the border districts of Albury Wodonga, Yarrawonga Mulwala. Leading horse of the Melbourne Royal. Have won a World Cup qualifying competition at Mulwala last year, last year's competition. Only very small, very compact, but a horse that can jump with a lot of speed. And John Ledger was on cloud 9 yesterday with a win in the New South Wales Show Jumping Council Championship. Nobby owned by Bob Pritchard and Kevin Burke, of course the owners of that great horse Turulayadi. John Ledger, a great sportsman, a fine Australian rules footballer as well as a great show jumping rider. Now just watch as the horse takes off and then how far out over the fence they land. Gives you some idea of the length of the jump of the horse. And John Ledger working hard coming through this line of fences. Oh, he got that one down. Nobby very compact. Oh, he's coming in sideways onto this fence. Lines up at the last moment. Over the wall, okay. John trying to get right against the fence to give maximum approach length to the treble. All clear through the treble. Good round from Nobby so far. Just that one fence down into the last. That's a good round from Nobby and John Ledger, and he's still in there with a big chance also. So we now have 6 clear rounds and 5 horses with 4 faults.
John Ledger with 4 faults. Here's where it happened.
Jumped the 8th and 9th okay. John starting to work. Nobby swinging his hind quarters around. Not coming truly down the line between the fences. Takes off and just touches that back rail. It didn't look as though he hit it all that hard, but unfortunately it was enough to bring it down and incur 4 faults.
The laconic Lindsay Ball from Forbes. Coppergy King, winner of the Grand Prix here last year.
And of course, Lindsay already a winner here. He won the speed event.
Finished 3rd too, battler's
Yes.
luck. Yes, terrific day for him yesterday.
Coppergy King, named after the Coppergy station where the horse was bred. Lindsay, with an unusual style, he flies right off the horse's back. And somewhere in this course, we'll really get a good shot of it. You'll see daylight between Lindsay's legs and the saddle. So he really launches himself off the horse's back. There it is. Daylight between him and the saddle. Very skillful rider. Went away with the New South Wales Show Jumping Association to New Zealand and competed with a lot of success. A farmer grazier, and unfortunately he finds it difficult to be able to get away from the farming commitments. So Lindsay virtually only competes in New South Wales. So a lot of pressure on him also as defending champion. Oh, he's got a rail down. Lindsay has a look back, but the rail is on the ground. Coming in sideways to the wall. Lines it up at the last minute. Coppergy King with the hind quarters swinging into the inside of the arena. Lines up the treble. A and B okay. He's right, although he wrapped his way all the way through over the last, flying high, and he finishes with 4 faults. So that gives us 6 clear rounds and 6 4 faults at this stage.
Be a little disappointed though, wouldn't he, with that after his performance yesterday and last year with the horse that's been going so well for him?
Jim, if you've been involved in show jumping for any length of time, you're used to disappointments like that. It happens all the time. Now, watch him really flying out of the saddle here as we see him going through the double. A lot of air between Lindsay and the saddle. But that's his style, and you can't change it now because he has so many good results. And there's where the 4 faults was incurred at fence number 10.
David Dobson aboard Convoy. I mean, we're often just thinking of Lindsay Ball's round. You can see someone go around and they rattle about 8 fences and not one comes down, and then another time you go clear and all of a sudden just a nick and bang, the pole falls off.
It seems to depend, Jim, on whether the horse hits the rail as they're going up into their jumping leap. Because if they hit it on the way up, they tend to lift the rail out of the cup. If they hit the fence as they're coming down, they tend to drive it into the cup. Unusual move from David Dobson to be riding Convoy in this event. He would be possibly about his 3rd string horse. He's lost the stirrupine on the right-hand side. David looking down, moving his foot around, trying to get it back in. David has semi-tough and Scruples, probably more experienced than Convoy. David holds a very high opinion of this horse, and from what we've seen during this year's circuit, he's justified in having that opinion. Probably a little bit inexperienced for a course like this, but sooner or later a horse has to be given the opportunity to prove themselves over a big Grand Prix track. And he's all clear so far, doing it nicely too. And he's lost his stirrupine again. David having a bit of a problem or two, keeping his feet in these stirrupines. Won the B grade here on Saturday. Had the rail down, coming through the treble and safely over the last, but David would be wrapped in that round from Convoy to just incur 1 rail down for 4 faults. And he had a difficulty or two as he was going around that course, keeping his feet in the iron. He was all clear up to this point. As he turned the corner, he's quite long stride into this treble. Takes off over the first one, okay. Drags the hind legs just a little bit over the element B and drops the rail of the vertical for 4 faults. Convoy, David Dobson.
David Noblet from South Australia has had a number of good performances last year. Won a President's Cup, Grand Prix and several other classes at the Adelaide Royal. Regular places in all classes. Placed in the World Cup event at Shepparton. He's ridden De Niro, as he is today, Rhythm, Regent and the Quiet Man. He trains racehorses and plays all sports.
David Noblet, top young rider from South Australia, has an unusual style, and we'll pick it up somewhere in this round, where he reaches round with his arms and sometimes almost appears though he joins his hands underneath the horse's neck and throat. Really pushes himself forward. David competes very successfully in South Australia and Victoria mostly, although this year he went on the circuit. Not having the best of rounds with De Niro. He's got 2 fences down at this point. And another one down, 3 fences down. David reaching forward there, his hand was visible underneath the horse's throat. And another, so that's 4 fences down. So not the best of rounds from De Niro and David Noblet. This is a big track, and horses really have to be jumping well into the treble. A, B, See, all clear. Sets him back, puts in the stride, another one down. So that's a total of 5 fences down. That'll be 20 penalties for De Niro and David Noblet. Turns the corner. Approaching fence number 5. Takes off and didn't get the front legs up high enough into the wall, and pulls that down almost with his stomach or the hind legs, and he finishes with a total of 20 jumping penalties.
When she turns around to look at us, you'll see that that is Colleen Brook, and she's on Carl Brook Rebound, which won the Grand Prix here in 1985. She's had some bad luck with the horse, was out of action due to injury for much of the circuit this season, and she too is vying for a place in the World Cup. She's on 98 points with Vicky Roycroft in equal third place, but behind Chris Chugg and Guy Crichton.
Former national champions, former Victorian show jumping champions, and winners of this event. Colleen very unlucky not to have represented Australia in last year's World Cup final. Was invited to compete, and on the eve of leaving for overseas, unfortunately Carl Brook Rebound was injured in a jumping accident, and she missed out on a trip. Went twice to Japan in 1985 and once in 1986 at the invitation of the Japanese Equestrian Federation. So a lot of pressure on Colleen. If she could win and pick up the 20 points, she would have a great chance of going overseas. All the rail down, that's going to make it difficult. Missed the stride coming through there. Between 8 and 9, it's 4 reasonably long strides. Colleen must continue to concentrate. Tremendous concentration required on both the part of horse and rider in a jumping event. Into the treble. All clear. Safely over the last, a nice round, but unfortunately one rail down for Colleen Brook and Carl Brook Rebound. And she'd be a bit disappointed, because now with 4 faults, I doubt very much if she can get a high enough placing to improve her point score in the World Cup final. This is the fence that she had down. Look at her working, trying to correct the stride of Carl Brook Rebound. Couldn't, and got in a bit too close and punched that top rail out for 4 faults. Round the corner, into the treble. Meets the first pass nicely, over with 1 stride in between. 2 strides and oversea, met that perfectly, rode it beautifully, working the hands, checking the horse back, putting in the 6 strides, nicely over the last, and that's a good round, but 1 rail down for 4 faults.
Well, 4 faults for Colleen Brook. Colleen, is that going to make it harder for you to qualify now?
I would think so. A lot harder.
And what do you think of the course?
It's not a very big, I say not a very big, for Grand Prix that we've seen here. It's not the biggest Grand Prix course we've seen, but the emphasis is on careful. And I think he's finding that out.
So that's what you'll be concentrating on next round?
Well, I should have been a bit more this time, but anyway, that's how it goes, so better luck next time.
Colleen Brook taking it all very well there with Lou Wallace, very philosophical about Carl Brook Rebound's performance there with 4 faults. Deborah Smith on High Summit. She's the only rider in South Australia to represent a state in both 3-day eventing and show jumping. And just a few weeks ago at the Australian Indoor at Homebush, she finished 4th on High Summit.
High Summit has a lot of experience. Jim jumped overseas with Chris Smith some years back. Deborah's been riding High Summit for about the last 3 or 4 seasons. and has also had some excellent performances with this horse. A very big horse, very tall, with a long body. Jumps well in puissance events, can really jump great heights. Deborah had the leading horse of the Adelaide Royal a few years back. Competed with a lot of success in eventing, now seems to be concentrating more on the show jumping. Is now starting to travel quite extensively. All railed down at fence number 9. The upright, the top rail came down for 4 faults. Coming for the treble. Another rail down, 8 faults for High Summit. Deborah Smith at this point over the last. So that's going to be 8 jumping penalties for Deborah Smith and High Summit. And this event now really shaping up to be a very interesting jumping competition. Round the corner, over number 8 OK. Deborah really working hard, trying to check the horse back. High Summit not getting the hind legs up high enough, pulls the top pole off fence number 9 for 4 faults. Finishes with a total of 8 jumping penalties.
So just 6 clears so far in this first round of the Grand Prix of Australia. Now there's a man well known to anyone who's followed show jumping. 5 horses, I guess, because he's a horse breaker. He rides track work, and that's Kevin Burke out there with Turulayati, and we probably should have that little song that was written many, many years ago, after which he named the horse, Turulayati. And Kevin Burke aiming for the 7th clear.
Well, Turulayati has won more World Cup qualifying competitions than any other horse. He's a former winner of the Bond Show Jumping Derby. An absolutely brilliant horse. Competed overseas for Australia with a lot of success. Has literally travelled the world jumping for Australia. Owned by Kevin and Bob Pritchard from Barnawatta in Victoria. Kevin will be concentrating hard, trying to join the other 6 horses out in the lead with clear rounds. We saw that from a fair way back, and you can see him really riding on from 4 or 5 strides back. Berkey looking at as though he's on the job, really seeing the stride nicely. Turulayati always looks a picture wherever he comes out. A lot of that must go to Kevin's wife, Kerry, who does a lot of the preparation of the horses. Into the treble. A, B, C, he's in fine form. Kevin checks back, looks good, got it. So we now have 7 clear rounds. Turulayati, Kevin Burke joining the other 6 with clear rounds and in the lead. That's an absolutely superb round. Turulayati and Kevin Burke right on the job. This is one event they haven't won and would dearly love to. Into the treble. 3rd in 1981. Comes in, meets the stride nicely, takes off, lands in perfect position. 1 stride over the upright, lands, then 2 strides, takes off again over the spread. Kevin really setting him up. Now, pulling him back, getting in that extra stride for the vertical, the final fence. and a magnificent exhibition of jumping from both Kevin Burke and Tulaiati to complete the course without penalty, and that's our 7th clear round.
Young rider from South Australia, 22-year-old Paul Robinson with Uncle Toby. And what level of competition has Uncle Toby competed up to?
John, he's probably on his 2nd season of top competition, and probably not as experienced as a lot of the other horses and riders that we've seen. Paul now starting to travel and therefore gaining valuable experience all the time. I think this course will probably be a bit big for him.
I'll stay this and I'll send Phil out there.
A bit lucky at 4A, not so lucky at B. Has a fence start. And another. 2 fences down, 8 faults. Paul Robinson gaining experience with every round. Another fence down. Gives Uncle Toby smack with the whip. Another 4, 16. Really starting to mount up a score. Now towards the treble. You'll have to be right on the job here. A single fence if you make a bit of a mistake. But at the multiple and treble, no room for error whatsoever. Nicely through the treble. Final fence coming up. Whoa, very awkwardly over the last. He was almost balanced out. So he finishes up with 5 fences down and 6 fences down. 24 faults. Into the last fence, and he was lucky not to get bounced out of the saddle. Horse putting in a short one, punches it out, and Paul almost out of the saddle. 20 faults, the official score for Uncle Toby, Paul Robinson.
Another member of the New Zealand team, Morris Beatson. He's a farmer from Woodville in the North Island. He's been involved with show jumpers all his life. He's the only New Zealander to have won the Horse of the Year title 3 times. He won the prestigious event in 1983 and 1984 on Nationwide, and last year on this horse, Jefferson Jr. And he was runner-up on the Grand Prix circuit and for the title of Show Jumping Rider of the Year in 1986. Morris Beatson.
Also represented New Zealand in 3-day eventing in Melbourne in 1973. All railed down. And Morris with the rail down. At fence number 3, and another rail down. So he'll be very lucky now to get into the 2nd round. So the cut-off point might be 4 faults, or maybe the 7 1/4 that we have in the 1st round. Hit the brick wall as well. 3 rails down so far, 12 faults. Beatson will be disappointed with this round. Another one, 16. He's really getting a score up. And over the last, Morris Beatson, Jefferson Jr., 16 jumping penalties.
So Morris Beatson with those 16 faults. We're getting close to the end of this first round. We've had 7 clears so far. And now to Gail Greeno from Canada. She's the reigning world show jumping champion. She won that title on her 11-year-old Hanoverian thoroughbred gelding Mr. T in West Germany last July. Now I have a note here about Valeur, which is owned by Ulrich and Belinda Clatter on their 450-acre stud in southeast Queensland called Belcamp Stud, and they've been delighted that Gail has been able to ride, because unfortunately a week or so ago Ulrich Clatter broke his hand and was unable to ride. So Gail Greeno has a chance to ride Valeur, and apart from a successful show jumping career which began in January 1985 for this horse, Valeur has competed to advanced level dressage with Belinda Clatter, sneaking in competitions whenever there was some time to spare from show jumping, and has been a member of the Queensland dressage team. So Gail Greeno out there on Valeur, an 8-year-old Oldenburg stallion.
Well, Valeur and Ulrich were very unlucky in the Australian Indoor Classic about a fortnight ago, finishing 3rd in that event. Competed on the Queensland section of the national circuit and has now rejoined the circuit here in New South Wales. Beautifully through the line of fences, 8, 9 and 10. Gail, world champion, top rider, doing it nicely. Superb round so far. Gail, I think, had one ride on Valeur prior to this into the treble. Railed out. A little bit of bad luck. B and C, she set the horse up okay, and it's safely over the last. Bad luck for Gail Greeno and Valeur, just to have the one fence down for 4 faults. She'd be extremely pleased with the effort, but probably just a little bit disappointed. Came round the corner. The stride looks good, sets the horse up, and it's the hind legs, the offending part of the body. 4 faults. Valeur, Gail Greeno.
Jeff McVean and Johnny Mack, ridden by Greg Urell. Johnny Mack won the Grand Prix here in 1984 and was twice second in 1980 and 1981. And Jeff is now based in England for most of the time. He finished 7th in the World Cup in Sweden last year on the first Z, and he made Australian show jumping history by so doing. That was the best placing by an Australian, and he's already qualified for the World Cup this year.
Almost certainly, Jim. He has enough points in the European zone to assure him of a place in the World Cup final. He will ride representing the European League, but as an Australian. Johnny Mack, an excellent horse, and now owned by Liz Connell. So Jeff McVean has only ridden Johnny Mack once before this, and that was at Dapto, and he's got a rail down at the first part of the double. Johnny Mack with a short bouncy stride, very well known to show jumping enthusiasts right around Australia, has won major jumping events, has been out of action for a while since Greg's retirement. It's great to see this top horse back in show jumping. 1 rail down for Jeff McVean and Johnny Mack. All clear through 8, 9 and 10. 1 rail down the first part of the double. Oh, another one down. First part of the treble's down also. Hit the third part of the treble, but it stayed up over the last. 8 jumping penalties for Johnny Mack and Jeff McVean. A good round. So Jeff McVean just leaving the arena. And over the wall, coming in nicely, Johnny Mack only just visible over the top of that wall. Lifts himself nicely up and over the fence. He's starting to look for the next fence, which is the treble. Johnny Mack, bouncy stride. Jeff picking up the stride, the line, and the pole fell. It was a bit late. Coming up to the final fence, over the last, and that is 8 jumping penalties for Jeff McVean and Johnny Mack. So 9 horses with 4 faults and 7 horses clear in the first round.
Well, that's 8 faults for Jeff McVean. Jeff, were you a bit surprised that Johnny Mack knocked the 2 rails down?
Yeah, well, he's been jumping well, but then he's very short of Grand Prix practice at the moment, but it just wasn't our day. So, but he jumped well other than that.
And how does this course compare with the Grand Prix courses you've been riding in Europe?
Well, myself personally, it's not a very big course, which surprised me because in Europe this jump builds and they get really big. It was just a jumpers course. A lot of the fancied ones have gone out already, you know, with simple mistakes over what should have been a nice course.
Did you find that you had to pull up short quite often?
Yeah, well, Johnny Mack goes a bit like that, but obviously wasn't short enough at the doubles and the trebles.
And will you be competing in the World Cup this year?
Hopefully at the moment I'm qualified to go to Paris on my best horse. And I've got a couple more shows, and if everything goes well, I'll be in Paris.
Have you found the standard of competition here or this weekend comparable to European?
Yeah, it's very good. There's a lot of good horses about and riders, and yeah, the sport's going in the right direction.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you very much.
Jeff McVean speaking there with Lou Wallace at the end of the opening round of the Grand Prix, and we'll go back and review the position in the Grand Prix while the course designer Paul Veer is down there adjusting the course for the second round. There'll be a brief delay before that, and there are the clear rounds, or some of them, going from the top of the draw. Rossmore and Gavin Chester, Apache, Vicky Roycroft, Hunky Dory with Di Dawson. That was a great round there. Brady and Lisa Stevens, EBA Kite with George Sanna, and the rest of the clears, Happy Jack, Ken Graham, and Turalai Addy, Kevin Burke. The four faulters, Reservation with Tony Webb from New Zealand, Guy Crichton's Stretch, another New Zealander, Claire Honeywell with Buckingham, one of the Tony Barlow team, Focus, and John Fay and Nobby with John Ledger, as well as Copper G King, last year's winner, with Lindsay Ball, David Dobson on Convoy, Carl Brook Rebound, disappointing for Colin Brook, with the one fence down there, and Valeur, an excellent ride there by Gail Greeno, and then Mr. Shrimpton with 7 1/4 faults, Leon Ryan. So Leon Ryan won't go into the second round.
So that'll give us 16 horses, Jim, into the second round. Any one of those could be the winner.
New South Wales Fire Brigade Band is out on the course entertaining the crowd, and during the break, while the course is set for the second round, we'll go down to an interview of Lou Wallace speaking with the course designer Paul Veer.
Well, Paul, welcome to Australia. What have you thought of the standard of competition so far this weekend?
I think what I've seen until now, it's a quite high standard. The standard we, except in maybe in England or in Germany, we can't find overseas in Europe. The horses, especially in the grade A, they are jumping beautifully. Okay, there are always some junkish horses where you can find all over. Maybe in the whole, we get a little bit more educated horses if you want, but the capability of jumping, what they showed here, it's fantastic.
And you've had a very extensive background with horses. Can you tell us something about that?
Yeah, I started as a dressage man, then I switched over to the eventing. And finally I stopped at the jumping, where I'm still in, and I think I'm not yet old enough to come back to the dressage.
So you're still actively competing in show jumping?
Yeah, but there's little activity left, because course building, giving clinics, giving courses, so there are about 4 or 5 shows, international shows a year, and maybe another 3 or 4 shows for young horses to just even to find out my way. Are you still able to jump or not?
And you designed the course for the World Cup in Gothenburg in 1986. How does this course compare to that?
Yeah, it's indoor building is a different story than outdoor building, because you have 4 walls and you have a roof. The horse can't jump out of the roof. The 4 walls are helping you. It's much more restricted. You have shorter poles. We have lighter falling poles. And I would say indoor it's even more technical than what we are doing here.
Well, thanks very much for talking with us.
Thank you very much.
And the band entertaining the crowd. You can just hear in the background, that was Paul Villar with Lou Wallace, the course designer here, and hopefully we'll be talking to Paul during the second round.
Well, for the second round, Jim, the number of obstacles will be less than the first round, and the scores of both rounds will be added together. The clear rounds, Rossmore and Gavin Chester, Australian show jumping champions. Apache, Vicky Roycroft. It's a very important round for Apache and Vicky Roycroft. If they could win the event, they may get the second berth to the World Cup final. Hunky Dory, Di Dawson, Brady, Lisa Stevens, Equestrian Bloodstock Agency Kite with George Sanner in the saddle, Happy Jack, Ken Graham, and Tuolaeti and Kevin Burke.
This is Gavin Chester's first round when he went clear on Rossmore.
Well, this would have been a great starter to the competition, Jim. The other riders would have been watching and listening to Gavin's progress. When he completed the course clear so early, he was the first horse out. That gives everybody a lot of confidence. Gavin really showing his experience. Rossmore, a great little horse. When he goes well, he goes superbly, but he has been known to have a bit of a disaster. Current Australian show jumping champions, won it in South Australia towards the end of 1986. Gavin giving the horse just a reassuring pat. It's always a bit daunting to be coming out first in an event. You really don't know how the course is going to ride. The other riders later in the field would be standing around the arena watching, and they would get some great pointers from the way that Rossmore and Gavin Chester attacked this course. First fence, reasonably simple. To get the horse going, get the horse flowing on. The course made up of straight obstacles and spread obstacles. The spacing between the fences, the all-important thing. The riders walk the course prior to the commencement of the round, and they step the distance between the fences, and they can work out exactly how many strides the horse has to put in and whether strides are long or short in between each of the obstacles. Gavin really making quite a check between fences 5 and 6. He'd landed too far over the obstacle and then had to shorten stride between the obstacles. Another section of related obstacles. The spacing to suit the natural stride of the horse. Over the vertical and safely over the big spread. The wall sitting in the centre of the arena could be a bit of a trap for somebody that was bowling along a little bit too fast. Every fence on this course really had to be jumped. Round into the treble. This is the real test. 3 efforts of the horse in very quick succession. Then the rider has to work really, really quickly to get the horse back under control for the final fence. And that was a great round from Gavin Chester. First horse to go clear in the first round.
So the course almost in readiness as the New South Wales Fire Brigade band departs. And in a moment we'll start the second round. Remember, in this second round we're only going to see those competitors who had 4 faults or went clear in the opening round. So that gives us a field of 16, 9 with 4 and 7 who went clear into the second round. And Paul VR, of course, making a change in the course for this second round. Now, what's he trying to achieve here in the difference between the first and the second round, Graham?
The second round, Jim, the obstacles will be increased slightly in size, and a number of the obstacles have been taken out. The 4 faulters will go first, and the clear rounds will go last. They'll go in program order, so the first horse that had 4 faults in the first round will be first to come out. All the 4 faulters will run, then Rossmore, who was first to go and jump clear, will be the first of the clear rounds to go. So that adds a lot more tension and a lot more pressure to the competition.
So to start the second round, Tony Webb from New Zealand aboard Reservation. Remember, we're seeing the 4 faulters from the first round and then those that went clear. And of course, we're looking for the double clears and the possibility of a jump off if there are some. Tony Webb, Reservation. Course has been rebuilt.
The scores of both rounds now being added together, and whoever has the lowest aggregate wins. Of course, this time goes obstacles 1, then round 2, fence number 3. Turning now onto the double 4A and B. Wraps 4A, but it stayed up. Onto 5. Then they go on the right rein and rejoin the course at fence 9. Over fence 9, okay, all clear so far for Reservation. All saw the stride, rode on very strongly into number 10. And from here, they then complete the course. Over the wall, number 11, then the treble and the final fence. All clear so far for Reservation. Now, if Tony goes clear and records a total of 4 at the completion of this round, then that has applied pressure to everybody. Into the treble. We wrapped that rail hard, but it stayed there. All clear through the treble. Final fence. This could be a clear, and it is. Reservation. Tony Webb going clear. He is under the time allowed. There's no time penalties, no jumping penalties, all clear for Reservation. And Tony Webb, he finishes with a total of 4 after the 2 rounds of competition. Clear in round 2, total 4 faults.
Guy Crichton, the previous winner of the Grand Prix on Spring Melody. He's been the leading rider at the Sydney, the Brisbane, the Perth Royals. Olympic Games, won 3 Australian Championships, but on stretch in the first round, he had 4 faults.
Well, now the first competitor has gone clear. That'll give the riders confidence. And, of course, they've already had 1 round of the course. Oh, he's safely over the first 2. Wrapped that fence really hard, but it stayed up. Oh, asking for a little bit of lengthening of stride from stretch coming through that double. Over the vertical. Course shortened considerably in length, so the time allowed for this round is 94 seconds, 1 minute 34. In the first round, it was 1 minute 49. Over number 10, still all clear for Stretch and Guy Crichton. clear over the wall. Stretch, resisting a little bit, coming round the corner, shying away from something. Into the treble. Yes, all clear through the treble. Guy setting this one up nicely. Over the last, good round from Stretch and Guy Crichton. All clear in round 2. And Guy also now finishing with a total of 4 faults.
So you're watching the second round of the Grand Prix of Australia. And first of all, we're seeing those that had 4 penalties in the first round. And now it's Claire Honeywell from New Zealand, had 4 faults in the first round there on Buckingham. And so far in the second round, both Tony Webb and Guy Crichton clear. 19-year-old Claire Honeywell seemed very happy after her first round with Buckingham. See if she can improve it and go clear now.
She was absolutely delighted with the first round. She really was. A very pleased girl when she came off the arena. So to remain equal leader and have a chance, she has to go clear in this round. Horses handling the second round course very well, as they did the first round course, so if everything goes well, we look as though we're going to have a very exciting jump off. What we want is double clears. Clear over 1, 3, 4 and 5. Round now to the vertical, fence number 9. The fence is now up round about the 1.6, 1 down. And a stumble, almost fell. And Claire now with 4 faults in the second round. Into the treble. A, B, C all clear. And over the last, bad luck for Claire Buckingham, 4 faults in both rounds, and she now finishes with a total of 8 jumping penalties.
Quickly onto the course, John Fay, Tony Barlow Focus. There were 9 competitors in the first round with 4 faults, 7 that went clear. This is the 4th up in the second round. All interest building up to see who can go double clear. But John Fay on the shortened course, seeing if he can go clear, keep a high position.
John Fay taking it nice and steadily. And Tony Barlow Focus every opportunity. We've been lucky to have the 4 faults in the first round. Very steadily. So he's going to judge this timing most to perfection, because he's only travelling at about 350 metres a minute. That's what they're required to do in this event. Going very deep up against the arena fence into the treble. Beautifully through the treble. Sets up the final fence, takes off, lands safely. A good round from Tony Barlow Focus and John Fay. Clear in the second round, a total of 4 faults after 2 rounds, and at this stage is equal leader.
John Ledger from Victoria on Nobby. That was the horse I can remember. Yes, Wonga Star. Seen him here at Wentworth Park in the past on Wonga Star. What's happened with Wonga Star?
Wonga Star is over in Western Australia. We see him occasionally. Shane Plum rode him for a while also. Oh, he was lucky over that. But you've got to have luck riding with you sometimes in show jumping. Through the double beautifully. Wraps number 5. Oh, John Ledger seeing the stride a long way back before fence number 10. Into this treble, all clear so far for Nobby. Over the final fence, good round. Nobby and John Ledger. Clear in the second round, 4 faults total after 2 rounds of competition.
Lindsay Ball and Copper G King out on the course, and in a moment we'll be talking with the course designer Paul Veer as we get into the second round. So Lindsay Ball out on the course, and a little while ago you saw Lou Wallace interviewing Paul Veer. Paul, welcome again. And tell us a little bit about the course that you've created here for this second round.
The course is a combination between what we are used to jump in Europe, outdoor and indoor. It's not a typical outdoor course because it should be a qualifier for the Volvo final. So it should be jumped indoor. And the distances between the jumps, individual fences are shorter, related than outdoor. Instead of having 5, 6, 7 strides between, we have just 4 strides between most of the time. And the fences, I must say, I was very much surprised seeing 7 clear rounds in the first round and 9 4-pointers. Could be compared in any Grand Prix all over in Europe. And the high standard of the riders proves now in the second round. We lifted 2 fences, we hired them. And I must say, as they're going, everybody nearly clear now, the standard is terrific high.
Copper G King there with 4 faults. One of the early fences down. So that's a total of 8 for Lindsay Ball and last year's winner, Copper G King. David Dobson on course with Convoy.
Paul, the distance between the fences.
The distance between the fences now coming to number 3 That's an individual fence going to the left-hand round on the double ditches. We have many ditches all over in Europe, and that's what I wanted to bring in, the ditches in the competition, but it didn't affect any of the horses yet. It was just superb.
What is the distance in between there, and how many strides were you expecting them to put?
Two strides between the two ditches, giving a chance to cover up. I was fearing a little bit that horses would look at the first, at the coming in over the first ditch, and the idea was to give them another stride to cover up for the wide parallel behind. The parallel behind was 150 by 150 and 160 spread.
How do those sizes compare with fences overseas, Paul?
Absolutely the same. What I said already before, it could be Grand Prix all over what we're building in Europe. Maybe the poles are a little bit lighter, what we got all over, maybe a little bit shorter and falling easier than here. But the standard, again, it's absolutely high. The treble combination, 1 stride and 2 strides to go out. Now, there's a choice between 5 and 7 stride coming to the last fence. Unrelated distances, so the riders have to make up their mind.
David Dobson, 4 faults, total of 8 over the 2 rounds. We're getting close to the end of the 4 faulters. Remember, there are 7 clears through the first round to come as we watch Convoy and David Dobson move out of the arena, and here comes Colin Brook with Carl Brook rebound.
Have any horses and rider combinations impressed you, Paul?
There are so many I can't remember the names of the horses and the riders, but I think you could easily pick up 2 teams here and send them over to Europe with your horses. They showed up here easily. Here are the 2 ditches. The upright 155, we had a related distance to number 6 we took out now in the second round. Coming to the last line, we had 3 fences in unrelated distances. These not optical, not good looking white upright onto the parallel black and green. The wall shouldn't be a problem in the normal round. It's 160 high. We will pick up that for the jump off. And getting out straight off the corner like in an indoor school, not on a long approach, parallel, upright, 2 strides and parallel again. And again, not a good optical jump, the last one.
Good round from Carl Brook rebound and Colin Brook. No jumping penalties in the second round. A total of 4 after 2 rounds, and at this stage of the competition, equal leader.
So just one more 4 faulter to come before we're into the clears, 7 of them. And this was a very impressive performance by Gail Greeno on Valeur, Ulrich and Belinda Clatter's horse, and they must be very pleased to see the way she's handled the horse.
It was an excellent first round, Jim, when you consider this girl has virtually only just started riding this horse yesterday. Paul, the type of horses used overseas, this is one of the German warm blood horses, as you know.
That's the horse. What we see just now is about the type we're using in Europe, but we try to push him a little bit with more thoroughbred, make him a little bit quicker in the legs. And I think it was quite difficult for Gail riding that horse. She is used at home, Mr. T, and the other horse is quite hotter than this one is. She has to collect in between the fences, and she can't just gallop against the fences. Especially yesterday, what we have seen in the speed class, the horse got longer and longer. And especially Mr. T is a hard-going horse where she can pick up all the way. But the first round and even this round is superb.
Well, again, a superb round from Gail Greeno. All clear so far. Balleur not worried at all by the change of rider. Beautifully through that treble. Saw the stride all the way through into the last. Great round. Superb round from Gail Greeno and Balleur. No jumping penalties in the second round, and she finishes with a total of 4 faults.
Tremendous exhibition by the world show jumping champion there on Balleur. And that ride wraps up the 4 faulters from the first round, and now all the interest. 7 clear from the first round. And Paul, how many double clears are you expecting?
I hoped for 6.
Well, let's see what sort of predictor he is of clear rounds. I think he's pretty right, actually. I really do. The way the horses have gone in that second round, if that's an indication of how the clear rounds will go, we have a big chance of getting 5 or 6 for sure. Rossmore, Gavin Chester, current Australian show jumping champions. Rossmore probably a little smaller than some of the really top horses jumping overseas and here in Australia. He's not all that big in stature, but certainly makes up for a very big heart.
I think the blooded horses, they help a lot here over. But I've seen many of the little horses coping since years, the one of Kevin Bacon or even of John Fay, they jumped and jumped forever. And at least they last much longer than our horses overseas, you know. They're bone in a way, they're too weak, bones and the ligaments.
Chichester's still around?
Yes, he is, Jim. Yes, he's having a happy retirement at Dungog, I believe.
27, 28?
He has to be every bit of it too.
And Kevin Bacon is here at Wentworth Park. We may catch up with him later on this afternoon if we have time.
Superb round so far from Rossmore. Kevin Chester, he's going to put the pressure on. If he goes clear, the others have to match him and catch him out in front. Going great guns into the last, a bit sideways. He's got it. Superb jumping.
First double clear. Gavin Chester and Rossmore.
Well, great course building.
Paul Veer, thank you very much for coming up and speaking with us on ABC Sport. I hope you're enjoying your stay in Australia. We're enjoying your courses as much as the riders are down there at the moment. They're having a great time.
I had a great time here in Australia. Thanks a lot.
Well, of course, Paul has to go back onto the course. It won't be long and he'll be building the jump-off course. Apache, Vicky Roycroft, clear in the first round to remain joint leader and have a chance of winning. She must go clear in this round. This is a tremendous pressure round for Vicky. Oh, he went very high over that. Didn't get a great deal of distance. All clear through the double. Clear so far. Vicky really concentrating. Around the corner. Into the treble. Sets it up nicely. Apache responding well. All clear through the treble. This could be our second double clear. We've got ourselves a jump off already. Great round.
Apache Vicky Roycroft makes sure of a jump off in the Grand Prix of Australia, and a tremendous chance for her to qualify for the World Cup now.
Certainly is. She's in there with a big chance.
Di Dawson now with Hunky Dory, speeding through this second round. We've had 2 double clears. This could be the third. They're eating up this course at the moment.
when you consider that this course is up to the maximum size, this really is magnificent show jumping. Hunky-dory switching the tail, showing that he's really using some effort, jumping these big fences. Wrapped the first part of the double. It stayed up. Really a lot of pressure on these riders. They know that they must go clear in this round to keep their chances alive of winning the Grand Prix of Australia. They can't afford to make the slightest mistake. If they do, a fence will be down. Over number 11. The treble. Hunky-dory resisting a bit, coming round the corner. Ty Dawson straightens up. Rail down. 4 faults at 12A. And safely over the last. Bad luck for Hunky-dory and Ty Dawson. 4 jumping penalties in the second round, and she finishes up with a total of 4, and at this stage has slipped back to equal third position. First and second at this point of time would have to go to one of our 2 clear rounds. There's still a long way to go in the second round of this competition. The next to go, Brady, Lisa Stevens.
Just 23 from Victoria. That was a real surprise to a lot of people, I think, in the first round when she went clear, and wouldn't it be fantastic if she could get through into the jump off here?
Well, Brady certainly has been improving all through this season. Jumped very well in the amateur owner classes. Been getting better and better. Jumped superbly at Dapto last weekend, and has been given the opportunity of competing in a really big and major Grand Prix. Wrapping her way through the double. Over the vertical. Going nicely. Looking good at this point of time. That's one of the exciting things about show jumping. You haven't got a clear round until you're over the last fence and through the finish. Gosh, completely missed the stride, crashed right through that fence, and there'll be time off now until the obstacle is repaired, and that will really shatter the confidence of Brady. Lisa might have problems second time round. Patting the horse, reassuring, and round the corner she comes. Let's see what went wrong. Turns the corner on a reasonably long stride, starts to side it up. And he's in close. Oh, gosh, he was almost gone. Very lucky. You can see he pulls out to the side. There was no hope of that horse going on further down that treble. And rebuilding the fence. And I think we've broken a rail. Now we can see there our course constructors with the ruler out, and they check the width of the fences. It's very important that the dimensions remain the same right throughout the competition. There's another rail is brought out.
The famous blue poles.
Yes. Brady now lining up the treble. Well, he's in trouble again. Lisa's going to have to work hard. Well done, Lisa. She was in all sorts of bother. Over the last, so she has 8 jumping penalties for 2 rails down, plus a refusal, another 3. So she has 11 faults in the second round for a total of 11.
So bad luck for Lisa Stevens there after a tremendous first round. But Brady, good experience. Now the next chance for a double clear is George Sanner with EBA Kite. Equestrian Bloodstock Agency Kite. And clear in the first round. Remember, we have already a jump off, Rossmore and Apache, and maybe Kite.
Well, certainly has the experience, Jim. Represented Australia in the Games in Los Angeles in 1984. Clear through the double. George Sanner, a really top rider, has a magnificent eye. Over the vertical. Still clear. Sees the stride nicely into this treble. Looking good. This could be our third double clear into the last fence. Oh, he hit it, but it stayed up. All clear for Equestrian Bloodstock Agency Kite and George Sanner. So we now have 3 horses moving into the jump off.
Tremendous stuff from George Sanner. Ken Graham with Happy Jack. And so far in this second round, we've had a lot of clears. And still a chance for a few more for the jump off. So it's really building up to a tremendous finish to the Grand Prix of Australia. And also a very close result at the top of the World Cup point standings.
Well, can Happy Jack join Rossmore, Apache and Kite in the jump off? To do it, he must go clear in the second round. Wrapped the back rail at number 3, but it stayed in place. Still okay. He's had a magnificent season this year, winning major Grand Prix in Western Australia, including the Bond Grand Show Jumping Derby. He'd love to add this title to his ever-expanding list. Still all clear. What a jump off we're going to have. Round into the treble. A lot of pressure on Ken. Turns the corner. A little bit of vocal encouragement. Whoa, lucky it be. Setting him back. He's got it. Now we now have 4 horses. All clear in both rounds for Happy Jack and Ken Graham.
Finish off the second round. Turulayati and Kevin Burke. 4 into the jump off at the moment. Kevin Burke's chance to make it 5.
Turulayati and Kevin Burke. Probably the only major title that they haven't won. Current Australian indoor champions, current Victorian indoor champions, current Western Australian indoor champions. So a tremendous record indoors. They have a great record outdoors as well.
Third in the Grand Prix here in 1981.
Yes, he's a really top horse. A lot of overseas experience as well. Jim has jumped for Australia internationally. And this really now starting to build to an enormous climax. 4 horses already into the jump off. Kevin Burke will try and make it 5. And if he does, he's going to have last run in the jump off against time. And that's a very important position to have.
He's in good shape, Kevin Burke.
Pressure is always on the last rider. Into the treble. All runs down. So it's a 4-horse jump off. Into the last. All clear. Over the last fence. 4 faults for Turilayati and Kevin Burke. So he now is in equal 5th position with quite a number of horses that also finished with a total of 4 faults. Rossmore, Apache, Kite, Happy Jack. Now here's Turilayati coming into the treble. A is right, B is down, and that's where he got the 4 faults over 12C. Kevin Burke will be a bit disappointed, but that's the luck of show jumping. Over the final fence.
And that is the position for the jump off. Double clears, Rossmore, Gavin Chester, Apache, Vicky Roycroft, and she's now a great chance of representing Australia in the World Cup. Currently equal 3rd with Colleen Brooks. She could move right up if she wins here. EBA Kite, George Senna, and Happy Jack. Well, he may have the last laugh too. Ken Graham, last off in the jump off. It's a racer against the clock over a shortened course. So a rush of activity down on the course as Paul Veer with his assistants out there shifting Fern's flower pots into position, getting these fences reorganised for the jump off. They reckon they can do this in 2 minutes.
They'll do it. The jump off course, obstacles 1, 3, 4B, then 5, then back and round onto obstacle number 2, 11, 12. The treble has now been reduced to a double only, so we have 12A and 12B, and then fence number 13. So some very interesting turns, some opportunities for the riders to make up ground, and in the jump off, it is against time. Because of the size of the obstacles, the competitors cannot go at full gallop. The way they set fast times is to cut off ground, take the shortest possible course, and they do this by jumping the obstacles from very short approaches. Where the course permits, they'll jump the obstacles at an angle, and when they land, if the next part of the course is around the corner somewhere, they'll turn very quickly towards it. Rossmore, Gavin Chester the first to go. Now Gavin has to try and get the best possible score, and if he can get a fast clear out, he can quite often force the other riders into error, endeavouring to better his score. Of course, the one that comes out last is the one that certainly has the advantage, and that's Happy Jack and Ken Graham. So time, very important. Gavin Chester taking off like a rocket, spins around the corner. Over number 3. Round now, we only have one element of the double left. That's 4B. That's the spread over 4B. Sprints around now to number 5. A great big high vertical fence. Jumps it beautifully. Round now to fence number 2 on the right rein. Picks that up well. Look at this turn back onto 11. Oh, he's got away with it. Magnificent turn. Now, the pressure's still on Gavin Chester. This is a double only now. A's right, B's right. This will take some beating if he can jump this last one clear. Oh, it's down. Oh. Well, that's what Gavin had to do. He really had to go for it. 4 faults.
Great time. But unluckily for Gavin Chester, who's really riding on hard there, he just had the last fence down.
48.60 seconds and 4 faults.
Now to Vicky Roycroft. And what an opportunity for her here with Apache. She's had a tremendous season with this boing, boing, boing chestnut and boing around Australia, having a wonderful time.
He really is a top horse, and this event is just so important for Vicky. It could mean a trip overseas to Paris to represent Australia, and of course, just as importantly, it means that you have won the Grand Prix of Australia. Final round of the magnificent 1986-87 Swan Premium Australian Show Jumping Series. So the pressure really on Vicky Roycroft. She's capable, the performances are on the board, and she'll really push along. Over 1 and 3. Coming in on the curve. Apache only given a couple of strides round that corner. Some very important turns in this course. That's where they make up the time, by cutting off ground. Back onto fence number 2. Okay. Round onto the wall. Not as short as Gavin Chester, but still a very short turn over the wall. Apache going very high. If there is a flaw or a weakness in this horse's ability, it's over spread fences, over the big spread, over the upright. Vicky has to set him back for the vertical. Comes in, takes off, all clear. There's our leader, 51.74 and clear. So, Apache, Vicky Roycroft, obviously going into the lead in the Swan Premium Grand Prix of Australia.
Great performance for Vicky Roycroft. 51.74 then. That is the time to beat for Kite and Happy Jack. They've got to go clear, and they've got to beat 51.74 to win. George Sanna with EBA Kite to take on that time over this shortened course and the jump-off.
Well, George Sanna accepting the challenge. He's going for it right from the word go. Spins in and turns very quickly onto that fence. Over 4B. Nothing in it at this stage. Rail down. Apache still in the lead. Now the pressure not off for George Sanna. Second placing at stake at this point of time in the competition. Can't afford another fault and has to bet a 48.60. Into the double. It's clear. Final fence. Must jump it clear. Does so. 48.30. He's gone into second position.
So George Sanna in second position. Rossmore is third. Vicky Roycroft's time of 51.74 aboard Apache, with Ken Graham the last up in the jump off. He has the last crack at it. He knows exactly what he has to do. And this could be a tremendous finish to this Grand Prix event now. Well, Ken Graham, who's had a magnificent season, what a finish it would be for him if he could take out this Grand Prix on Happy Jack.
Well, Happy Jack and Ken Graham, could they make it a magnificent double? The Bond Show Jumping Derby and the Grand Prix of Australia. He must go clear, has to bet a 51.74. Oh, that was not a confident start. Wrapped that first fence hard. Certainly not an unbeatable time, as the others have proved. Now this little fella can really scarp along. Only small. 4 faults, it's Vicky Roycroft's Grand Prix of Australia. And almost certainly now she will be invited to represent Australia in the World Cup final, along with Chris Chugg. Oh, another one down. So Ken Graham now slipping back to 4th position. 4 faults. Again, 12 faults, so it doesn't matter. Ken takes off his cap. There's no point going on. And he now takes 4th position. So
Ken Graham, he knew what he had to achieve. he really attacked the course, but unfortunately having those few fences down. And it means that Vicky Roycroft has had a magnificent victory with Apache and has more than likely qualified now from equal third position with Colleen Brook, with Chris Chugg and Guy Crichton missing out here on top placings for the World Cup this year. World Cup to be held in Paris, as again we see the New South Wales Fire Brigade band coming on to the arena. That's the result. Apache the winner, George Sunner and Kite second, Rossmore with Gavin Chester third, and now Vicky Roycroft is down there with Lou Wallace.
Well, Vicky, what a fantastic victory for you. A World Cup qualifying round and Grand Prix of Australia. You must be really thrilled.
I don't think I could be more thrilled unless I won an Olympic gold medal or something.
And how are you going to go about preparing for the World Cup?
I don't know. There's been... I thought if I got nowhere in this event, I was going to sell my horse. Now I don't know what to do.
I was supposed to be taking some French lessons, will you?
Yeah, I used to do French. I hope I can pick it up again pretty quickly.
Is there going to be much difference competing indoors rather than an outdoor course like this?
The horse is very good. I think the adjustment will have to come from me more than the horse. The horse is a champion.
Did you think that this was going to be the most difficult qualifying round in terms of the course?
No, not at all. Quite the opposite. I've had a bit of trouble with the courses in the past few weeks, but as I say, I've had an Australian course designer who doesn't like to build for my horse. I think probably, in all honesty, this course suited my horse, but it's an international course, so that's how it should be.
Well, Vicky, as I say, congratulations, fantastic win for you, and look forward to following your progress later in the year.
Thank you very much indeed.
And a rather emotional there, Vicky Roycroft, who's had a tremendous year with Apache, and giving credit to her horse for that performance. And Graham Barker, what an event we've had once more in this Grand Prix of Australia at Wentworth Park.
Magnificent. And Vicky Roycroft now almost certainly going to Australia. Chris Chugg with 120, Vicky with 117.
That completes our coverage from Wentworth Park. Now we're going to Freshwater Beach in Sydney's northern suburbs for their annual surfing carnival.